If I were to ask you and your wife why the marriage isn't working out, what would she say? Okay, now hold that idea out right in front of you like this. It's wrong. She isn't aware of the real reasons why she's leaving you.
So there are needs that I have that weren't being met, and Adrian and I did have a heart-to-heart, and I brought everything to the table and said, here's why I'm unhappy. And he said to me that he can't give me what I need, which was all the closure, really in just one sentence.
Why did I end my relationship? First of all, I was way too comfortable in the relationship, and I posted about this on TikTok, and I said that I was way too comfortable, and then everybody was like, oh my god, you're so toxic, isn't that good being comfortable, blah blah blah. Being comfortable is good. Being way too comfortable is not good.
Each of those are false. Now, those women aren't lying, it's just they don't really know the real reasons. You know, when you try to fix what she says is wrong and why she isn't happy anymore, it's like a doctor diagnosing you and giving you the wrong medicine for an illness. Your marriage will not only stay unhealthy, but you'll gain even more side effects of disconnection. But what if I said that quite simply, what separates you from men like Tim?
2 nights ago in the kitchen, I said, things are really good. And she goes, yeah, I got my Timmy back. I said, well, what do you think, what changed in me? What changes do you see in me from this program? And she said, she thought a minute, she goes, you're more independent. And she said, and I don't feel like I'm married to a female anymore. I'm married to a male.
Is just understanding the core reasons why your wife is not happy, so that you can understand her better than you ever have. And knowing what specific behaviors you must take to change her mind and heart about you. Also, how to not ruin those chances over time through shadow work techniques. Now that is a 3-step formula I'm gonna lay out to you in today's video to get her back. My name is Josh Hudson, by the way. I'm a licensed therapist with a decade of experience helping men save their marriages, and I found a better way to do so than traditional marriage therapy. This first principle I call getting to the core. Now, why do we even have to go to the core? Why can't your wife just say the truth about why she's upset, unhappy, or wanting to leave you? Well, it's not that she's trying to lie. It's just that her mind works that way. When asked, why are you wanting to get a divorce, seeing the other guy, etc., she'll pause, look at you, start to feel the pain, disconnect, anger. Then her mind will jump to other impactful emotions or experiences where she felt those same emotions, and then she'll produce those rationalizations. That's how it works. She may also point out a pattern that she's seen over time with you. So let's look at 3 examples of other clients that I know that actually we found the core reason other than what the wife said. Now, the first one is Adam. Adam was a nice guy through and through. Everyone would be this guy's friend if they met him, right? Now, when his wife of 5 years felt disconnected, he asked her, she said, I just lost passion for the marriage. Now, what she really means is that you never challenged me. You let me have my way all the time. You never asserted your boundaries. I don't even know who you are because you changed so much. And I lost all attraction for you because of it. It's pretty harsh, but it's the truth. Now to Adam, to get the passion back, what do you think he did? He tried to go on dates with her. He read books about restoring intimacy. He tried to take her on weekend vacations of these workshops to restore passion, but it wasn't there, right? And the truth behind everything is that he lacked polarity. Now, I have plenty of videos on the topic of polarity, of being your core masculine self and how that attracts the feminine, but that was the truth. That was the core reason. Now, for Mark, he had a porn addiction, and he went sober for 5 years. But then one day, his wife came to him and said, I am no longer in love with you. And when he thought back about it, he's like, what do you mean? Like, I love you. I quit porn 5 years ago. Like, I've been doing great. She's like, I just feel lonely. Mark said, lonely? I am with you I spend more time with you than any other person in my life. We do everything together. You can see the confusion. But here's the truth. When his wife said she felt lonely, what she really meant is that she felt disconnected. You see, just because Mark spent every single waking moment with his wife, he wasn't conscious with her. He would be on his phone, right? He was thinking about work. He was never conscious with her. And they would go through the same routine every single day. And that disconnect of doing no novelty, there's a white noise in her relationship, and it was just emptiness. And so when she said she felt alone, the mundane routine of their life made her feel like she wasn't living. She couldn't remember, like the past 5 years were all a blur to her. And she looked at the man and said, this is the person I want to spend the rest of my life with. I feel alone. I don't feel a part of life. That's what she really meant. So the problem here is that a lot of men will take face value what the woman is saying logically. And there's a really good quote from David Data before we go into this third story. This is absolutely crazy. That really sums this up. David simply says, you must listen to your woman more as an oracle than an advisor. This is the difference between the masculine and the feminine. You see, the reasons she's giving logically are not the real reasons. Okay, let's get into this third story. Now, Jeremy was a hard worker. He's smart, went to an Ivy League school, went up the corporate ladder, a marketing genius, two beautiful kids, had the white picket fence, like literally the white picket fence, right? Involved in the church community, and all of their friends would say with him and his wife that they were that couple, the couple that everyone was jealous of. And then one day he found out, well, he came home early from work, right? Walked up to their bedroom while his wife was in the shower. His heart started to race and he didn't know why. Well, then he saw it. He couldn't believe it. A text from her boss saying how he loved and missed her. In that moment, time stood still. It was a different reality. He decided to confront her when she came out of the shower. Why was the only thing he could plead out of his mouth. I don't get it. She said, I haven't been happy, Jeremy. I mean, have you? Yes, he pleaded. What did I do to deserve this from you? We have everything, the perfect life. His wife, feeling forced in a corner to give an answer, she said, I'm living your life. You're controlling. Controlling? What? How? She said, you picked the vacations. I was a stay-at-home mom and never got to go to school to pursue my career. Now with the kids leaving for college, I don't want that life anymore. So what is the real reason? Was he really controlling to her? No. You see, here's a harsh truth. His wife had no issue early in life doing everything Jeremy said, right? And his wife especially had no issue having her boss tell her what to do as well. So then for Jeremy, what was it? Well, in our work together, I was able to help him understand that she didn't respect him, mostly because he didn't respect himself. He avoided conflict with her constantly. They never talked about these issues that always came up in the marriage. He never opened up emotionally about his feelings. He was very logical, right? Intelligent, but logical. There was a lack of emotional connection over the years. She didn't really know him. And so she latched onto the first reason she could think, and that was that he was controlling. But that wasn't true. Okay, so I call this second principle the core four. Now there's a document here of when we first started the company, I took all the onboarding calls with all the clients, hundreds and hundreds, as you can see scrolling through this, of notes. And after all those notes of all the reasons why, and I asked these guys, why is your wife leaving you? I broke it down to 4 core reasons. These are actually not reasons why the wife is left. They're things that you can actually tangibly work on. And if you have all these 4 core pillars, it creates this perfect ideal man that she just used to be at times in your life. And I would argue you can get back easily if you understand these. So the first one is emotional intelligence. So often, a lot of the guys we work with, you maybe have a lack of emotional intelligence, and that's not a dig. That is just like, the only reason I know is because I had to go to grad school for 10 plus years and I worked with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of clients to get this down, right? I wasn't emotionally intelligent at all. And all emotional intelligence is understanding what emotions are going on, what the purpose of those emotions actually are, and then how to process them, and then do the same thing with other people. Now, the reason why this is so important is because we are emotional beings. I know as logical as you are, we are emotional beings, and your wife especially is, right? And so when you can truly understand the emotions that people are experiencing and how to validate them and meet those emotional core needs, then they end up being happy with you. So I have a whole video on emotional intelligence on the channel. All you have to do is type in emotional intelligence in the search bar, or I'll put it at the very end of this video in the card. Let me just give you one example of how this shows up in relationships. So I remember in grad school, there was this group cohort that I was leading, and there was this woman, and she was crying. She was opening up about her trauma, right, for the first time. And I put my hand on her back, I rubbed her back, I gave her some tissue, and I thought I was doing a good therapist job trying to make her feel better. Well, we were reviewing the tape later in class, in front of all my other fellow cohort. The professor, my mentor, he said, Josh, why are you so selfish? During that moment, I was like, what? What are you talking about, selfish? I was helping her. Like, I was making her feel better. What are you talking about? He goes, no, you're making yourself feel better. You were uncomfortable with her emotions, so you were trying to take her out of that experience. Us processing and dealing with these emotions, even if they're negative, is cathartic or healing. And so every time your wife has a negative emotion, especially about yourself, trying to solve her problems, trying to make her feel better, happy wife, happy life, is actually disserving her. And in those moments, allow her to tell her that she should be feeling that way as much as you don't like it. That is a core way to express emotional intelligence. The second core pillar that you can create in yourself to get your wife back is what I call apex assertion. Now, I talk about the apex male on this channel plenty of times. Again, you can check it out, other videos on the channel. However, if I'm gonna be reductionistic and super simplistic, the secret to keeping a relationship working is you knowing your core needs, knowing her core needs, and then just meeting them over time. That's it, creating positive emotional experience by meeting these needs. Now, where a lot of guys will mess up this simple process is under the nice guy paradigm, right? You were taught early on in your life that somehow your needs aren't worth getting met, okay? That you should put them aside, that you should serve her more and make her happy, right? And well, every time she's unhappy, you sacrifice parts of who you are in order to make her happy. Perfect story example. Let's say a lot of guys, when they first join the program, they're also simultaneously on this fitness journey, okay? And I remember one time, personal story, I was with my partner at the time, and I had to go to the gym in the morning. And she's like, no, I don't want you to go. I hate when you go. It's just like, oh, she was actually getting upset that I wanted to go to the gym. And I was like, normally I was like, okay, I'll stay in bed and cuddle with you. But I was like, no, I'm going to the gym. This is so important for me. I drew that line in the sand and I went towards that conflict. I knew my needs. I put them first. And she respected. She actually gave me a hug. She's like, okay. And she was super nice about it after I went through that conflict. And so many guys, you know your boundaries because it's based on how you feel. And if you're not asserting your boundaries and you're going away from conflict, you are not being the high value man that she knows that you should be. Now, this third one is called purpose first, and it's actually very similar to the apex assertion, but the difference is it strictly goes with your purpose in life as a man. Mr. Data, I know you guys hear me quote him all the time. Every man knows his highest purpose in life cannot be reduced into a particular relationship. If a man prioritizes his relationship over his highest purpose, he weakens himself, disserves the universe, and cheats his woman of an authentic man who can offer his full undivided presence. Read that again. You're not here for her, right? You're here to have this high purpose in life. And the idea of this purpose is actually evolving with me. I used to think that all guys had one purpose in life. Like my purpose here is to help men, find and keep the woman of their dreams, right? Their love, their family, their everything. But I'm realizing that you can have multiple purposes across your life, like a snake shedding its skin. And so maybe you've reached a purpose at your life, 5, 6, 10 years ago, however long. There's another purpose that you must find. There's a new chapter revealing itself to you. And you got to go within and figure out what that is. Because if you don't, you're going to become complacent. You're going to float around in life like, oh, life is good. No, you should always be on your edge, doing things that scare you, doing things that are the next challenge, okay? And so often in life, I know life can be hard. I know you're doing all these things to serve your family, do all these things, but there's a higher reason why you're here, to serve the planet, other than your family, right? Other than your wife. And you have to find what that is, because when you are a man that's on their purpose, nothing is more attractive. Nothing is more attractive to her. By the way, our coaches and I, we have a really cool exercise in our program that helps guys develop their purpose. So if you want help with that, you set up a call down below. And if you just are struggling in the marriage, we do have limited calls each week with our team. So cool. All right, the last one is the CCC. I call it the corrective conflict communication. Now, communication issues, they are kind of a smokescreen for deeper issues, but I kind of combined conflict and communication into this one core need, because it is a core need or a core behavior or skill that you could develop. And once you become a master at dealing with conflict and communication, not only does it help your marriage, it helps you in the workplace like no other as well, just every relationship, okay? I mean, the way this shows up is quite evident when oftentimes when you are communicating with your wife, she'll criticize you, she'll say something, she'll shut down, right? And then you get defensive, right? You say something logically to say, oh no, that's not true about me. You want to protect your ego, which is a natural normalizing process. But then after that protection of ego, she starts to get resentment because she thinks he doesn't understand me. He doesn't validate me. And it's just she goes harder at you or she shuts down more depending on her attachment style, anxious or avoidance. And then you get so heated and flooded, you're going to shut down completely. You're going to leave or you're going to yell at her, okay? Now that is the process, right? Those are the 4 horsemen that Dr. Gottman talks about, right? That 95% of couples end in divorce and separation if they show those signs. Now, there are whole videos on this channel as well on how to correct those, and our course does that as well, but you must know that in order to properly conversate and deal with conflict, that is a primary skill Whether you work it out with your wife, which I hope you do, or you don't, you must develop the ability to not have those four horsemen be used in conversation ever with anyone, because that is a for sure fire way to end any relationship. All right, in a recent video, I talked about shadow work, and I was pleasantly surprised that a lot of you guys commented down below that you want me to do a video on shadow work. I'm gonna only do 1 point, and if you guys want a whole video dedicated to shadow work after this 1 point, comment down below and I'll do a whole video dedicated to it. Okay. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people. So let's talk about what the shadow is. The shadow refers to the unconscious part of the personality that contains all the traits, desires, and aspects that the conscious mind rejects or denies. These can include negative qualities such as anger, envy, greed, or selfishness, but also positive aspects that an individual might deny in themselves due to societal or personal norms. The shadow is often seen as the dark side of the psyche, but Carl Jung emphasized that integrating the shadow is crucial for achieving self-awareness and psychological wholeness. By confronting and accepting these hidden parts of ourselves, we can grow and develop a more balanced and complete sense of self. You know that scene in Peter Pan where he's like chasing his shadow, he just can't catch it? That's like a good example of how this works. I want you to imagine that there's this house that's developed, right? This house represents your psyche. That each room is an aspect of your personality, a part of yourself. Well, early on in life, through religion, through your parents, through whatever, someone said that a part of you cannot be expressed, okay? Whether it was, you can't be sexual, right? There's shame around sex, or there's shame around crying as a boy, right? You can't be vulnerable, etc., etc. Well, it's almost like you're taking that room, you're closing it, you're locking it off, and it's just sitting there. However, over time, there's a leak coming from somewhere, and there's a loud noise from some pipes, but you forgot that room even existed. And so it's having a say and a rule on your life and influencing you without you remembering that it even exists. So let me tell you an example story of how this played a light. Early on growing up, my older brother was more cocky, arrogant, loud, right? Which can seem as confident and outgoing, but also negative aspects as well. Well, I wanted to be the complete opposite of my brother. So I rejected or put a shadow on all the confidence, arrogance, loudness, and self-love in a way that my brother had. Okay, so when I would see others show that aspect of their personality, I hated those people. I remember one time there was this guy on the soccer field and he was just being loud and rambunctious and confident on the ball. And there was just something about him that I just did not like, and I couldn't figure out why. Well, luckily I was learning about the shadow in grad school at that time, and I realized that I hated those aspects in my brother, so I rejected them in myself, so I rejected them in other people as well. Thus, a shadow occurred. And I put on the pros of like, you know what, I'm an overly nice guy, I'm humble. But at the same time, I rejected the positive aspects of cockiness or arrogance, which was like self-love, like I am worthy. So how do you actually overcome this shadow? Well, let's start with this quote. Carl Jung says, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Now, there's this book, put a link down below. It's not from me, it's from this person who, Keela Shaheen, put a bunch of exercises in here, okay? And I'm just gonna read a couple of these exercises, but I recommend you get the book. It's pretty good. You can just fill it out, and these questions are helped to enlighten the shadow within you. And then once you enlighten it, you accept it as part of who you are. This is a very simplified approach to the whole shadow work, by the way. So one says, authentic self. Your authentic self is what hides behind layers of learned masks. Is there anything you wish people knew more about you, and why? Why don't they know that already? So you just simply write out in a journal answering those questions, and that inquiry process sheds light on different aspects of yourself that you never really considered. It's basically like your own personal therapist. If you can't afford, right, go and see a therapist. So it's great. Let's do a couple more. I know we all struggle with anger, or actually, let's see. So this exercise is called fill in the box. It says, read the prompts below and respond by filling each box. So it says, why? You are shaped by your experiences. Reflective writing prompts will guide you towards understanding who you are and why. This will help you recognize positive and negative patterns and habits impacting the view of your life. The top left box says, do I feel guilty if I put my needs first? Answer that. Top right box says, how important is my own happiness? Bottom left is, in what ways do I show love to myself? And the final box is, I think I still need to work on blank. And that's all it is. It's a bunch